Hi everyone, welcome. I'm preparing to check in on the mixed red worms today. It's been a couple weeks since the last time we checked in on them to give their portion of coffee, because coffee has been the main meal that these guys have been getting. The first two feedings, the first two feedings were just your typical kitchen scraps type feeding, but on feeding number 3 was when we decided, hey, let's put these guys on a coffee only diet, and for the past 8 feedings now, with this being the 9th coffee feeding going in, they've been getting pretty much exclusively that. The one place I do get a little bit of a chance to be creative is with their bedding, you know. So I'll give them leaves, I'll give them paper, I'll give them, you know, a nice variety if I can. And it does seem to me like we went with the option of covering with paper here on the top. Actually, oh, this seems to be the system where we've got double bags. These double bags of sugar. See the label right there, sugar. And seems like over the past 14 days these bags have gotten a lot more worn. I don't remember them being quite that worn, which is good to see. They're definitely tough bags, you know. And I guess it makes sense, you know. You don't want people dropping a bag of sugar or flour and having it break and fly all over the place. What a mess that would be. It just seems to make sense that for goods like that, you want to have a good bag you can trust. This one might not have gotten quite as worked down as the one in bin number 1. And the feeding zone indicator is holding up pretty good. As you saw, I've got the coffee in that carton over there, but no coffee filters today. Wait, that's not right. I had even a whole bunch. I had 4 coffee filters sitting here. I put those on standby thinking that, hey, you know, whatever, it's the coffee bin. If we found a nice need for more coffee filters, let's use them. But you know what I wanted to do here? It does seem like we might not have done so in the last check-in, was give the system a nice top coating of leaves, because that's always one of the nice beddings to give these little guys. But I guess the one thing about the feeding of coffee is that you don't really observe them kind of working any one particular type of food down. I mean, there are some leftovers in here actually from the first couple feedings. Seems like we did opt for certain things that were very slow going, like that's that outer husk of the mango seed. And I think we might even have some other slow going objects in here that were thrown in at the early stages of the system. Here's a piece of corn cob. That's also another slow going object, which, considering that it has to have been put in here during one of the first 2 check-ins, or might have even been something that came with the worms from their previous home. I don't know, I don't remember, but it's just my little weird thing with the corn cobs is that I always tend to like let them survive. I don't try to crush them and break them for some reason. So I don't know why, but it just seemed to me like maybe going through the system and giving it a good twirl around, a nice agitation, give us a good chance to inspect how the system looks. And it is kind of nice to see all this bedding type material blended in all over the place, so that's nice. Nice looking. This over here too, by the way, this leftover was a piece of pumpkin stem. Or well, a whole pumpkin stem, not even a piece of a pumpkin stem. And when we get to bin number 2, chances are we're going to find very similar types of old leftovers from days gone by. But you know, I'm liking the idea of making sure that we've agitated the whole system through and through. You know why? Because, you know, as you're going to find if you ever feed with coffee only, you're not introducing anything that brings with it its own moisture content. Like if you were feeding a bunch of watermelon or some, you know, nice juicy apples, or, you know, anything basically, any sort of vegetable or fruit matter has a good bit of moisture content to it. But what we're feeding them here is just ground up beans, ground up coffee beans, which don't really have any moisture content. So the worms can use it as food, but the stuff isn't bringing with it any moisture. It's good to see that there's nice bedding all over the place, little scraps of shredded paper and cardboard throughout. And that must have been a feeding zone indicator from days gone by. I'm wondering if we can just sprinkle our coffee feeding out onto the surface, you know, because these composting worms, they are surface feeders, so they do kind of anticipate finding their feeding or foods by, you know, foraging the forest floor to find food. So that is kind of where they're expecting to find food. Here we go, pumpkin stem, piece of scrap paper, probably half of a mango seed husk. Oh, how do you like that? Right there, just what we anticipated. And I think we're gonna do what we've been doing here pretty regularly, is to come in here with the squirt bottle. Now that everything's kind of stirred together and aerated, I do want to come in with a nice generous portion of moisture in here. It's just what we've been doing. I've even got a jug of water behind me, corn cob, which we could even just pour in a cup, you know, just pour it right in. It'll settle on the bottom, but whatever, the system will make use of that moisture one way or another. It won't just sit there, I'm sure. I bet a bunch of worms would come right by for it, and then whatever doesn't get utilized by the wormies would eventually just, you know, make its way into neighboring materials. With those bubble wrap plastic covers that we've got on these systems, the moisture in the system tends to kind of spread out evenly, you know, because it's contained. So unless we're talking about like some standing water that just drops to the bottom, the moisture content does seem to kind of permeate around underneath the plastic covers. I think just because in general the moisture is trying to evaporate, and then it condenses and drops back down, and there's kind of this ever-going cycle of the moisture in the system. And well, you know, let's start with some moisture. I recently recharged and refilled the water bottle, so I'm glad to see that the charge that I gave it by pumping it up a few days ago is held. It's pretty convenient having this thing here. You just reach for it and there's some water. Like I said, I can complement this sort of surface soaking with a little dousing, just a little bit of moisture to send right down to the bottom. We could be generous on that too, I think, just from the way things felt in both of these systems. They can both definitely do with more moisture without the risk of things getting muddy or nasty. So yeah, I think we're going to be generous with the moisture here today, and perhaps I'll even pour some of that in right now, as long as we're doing the application of moisture. Let's just keep on it. The thing is right here behind me, and what I have in here probably is just about the right amount that I had in mind to introduce into both systems. I don't know. I'm not that good at estimating what that was, but it seemed like at least a cup of water probably went into each system, which is nice. And now I think we can come in with the feeding. You know, it's when I'm oh, that's interesting. Coffee. When I'm feeding, you know, delicious, sweet-smelling fruits and vegetables that are going to start, you know, breaking down and rotting and making all kinds of interesting odors for passerby insects to take an interest in and come investigate. Kind of makes sense to want to keep things nice and covered, but you know, when it comes to coffee doesn't really seem to be the type of stuff that draws the attention of insects that much. So having it out here on the surface doesn't make me feel like I've got to get it all covered up. Although we got those nice bubble wrap top covers here too, so we'll be in good shape. I'm not going to try to shake every last bit of coffee out of there, but we did get the majority of it, almost all of it actually. And I keep needing to step away because I didn't really bring all the things that I needed to use today like I usually do and put them within arm's reach, but luckily they're up on my shelf, and what I had in mind here for these little guys was a nice top coating of leafy matter. I didn't prepare by watching the video from last time, so I couldn't remember if we'd done something like this last time, giving them a nice top coating of leaves, but I didn't get the impression that that was the case when we came in here at first. So it did seem like it's probably been a couple check-ins since they got a nice top coating of leaves, and this is just one of those other things that I consider to be a a bedding, so I could use it as much as I like in the coffee only bin. Although you got to admit, in short order, it's going to become their food. So even though I got nice new replacement coffee filters, if I wanted to deploy them as replacement feeding zone indicators, we're just going to stick with what we had already. Let's just put them right back on the way we found them, because they're really holding up quite nicely. As for these top covering double bags, don't know about these. They're doing what I was hoping they would do, which is to start deteriorating. I mean, they're right there. They're right there where the moisture is going to be dropping. As soon as it condenses on that plastic and it drops down, that's the paper that it lands on. So it's definitely a space that worms are going to appreciate because of the moisture level there. So not too surprising that we're going to find worms there. And when they're there, hopefully they'll keep nibbling. I see a hole there, but not doing quite as good as they are over in bin number one. Bin number one, they're working that top covering paper down really nicely. So I like that little dose of water we threw in there. I think it's going to do the system good. Kind of looking forward to it. The systems did feel a little bit light when I first lifted them as I brought them over, so I could tell they could probably use a little bit of moisture. So I think it's going to work well. So got a couple things I got to take care of getting cleaned up, put away here, but I'm not going to waste your time with that. That's boring. Before I go really quick, let me just say thank you. Thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, as always, please don't forget to leave me a quick thumbs up before I go. That's always really appreciated. And if you haven't done so already, please also consider subscribing to the channel. That's very much appreciated as well. All right, everyone. Have a great day. Thanks for watching. Bye now.